is a pretty tough game. I know, deep, right? But just hear me for a sec. Why do we like that? Like in general, why do we like things that make us suffer? This guy thinks he knows the answer, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I've played and loved my fair share of tough games, but From Software games have always eluded me. I've started Bloodborne a couple times, but never got past the first hour or so. I got maybe like halfway through Sekiro, but I dropped it once I got to that fucking monkey. You know the one. And after I'd heard so much praise for Elden Ring, I knew I had to give it a try. I've started up a couple times, maybe got like 8 hours or so max, but never got really far. It's not like these games in particular are too hard for me. I don't need to get good, okay? I 100%ed Mario Sunshine. If you think you're good at games, go try and beat the lily pad level in Sunshine, okay? That shit sucks. I knew I could beat one of these games, I just had to commit to it. So a little over a month ago, I decided it was finally time to beat a From Software game. And what one better to start with than everyone's favorite Elden Ring? Pretty quickly into my playthrough, I was hooked. Just the fact that I knew I was forcing myself to play through the whole game, I had a better mindset and was less likely to stop playing after a BS death. There's so much that this game does so damn well that I had never known. Wow, somebody thinks Elden Ring is good, that's insane. I mostly thought the appeal of this game was the combat and the bosses, which yeah, it is, but there are a few surprises about this game that I ended up loving even more. When I first started, I wasn't sure I even wanted to play it in multiplayer. I thought it was going to piss me off having all kinds of annoying notes littered all over the ground in the world. But I reluctantly tried it and ended up loving it. It's such a community-driven game. I love getting all kinds of tips and messages from other players. It's like a good form of cheating that doesn't make you feel bad for doing it because it's baked right into the game. The second thing sort of came out of accident. So since I'm playing the game online, there really isn't any way to pause. Usually with most games on my PS5, I'll just pause the game and it'll suspend and it'll just be on in the background when I'm not playing. So next time I don't have to go through all the loading screens when I want to play the game. I wanted to have a way to leave my game on, but I couldn't just stand around anywhere because I'd get killed. So I would sit at the points of grace, the safe places of the game. Just sit there and leave my TV on. There was just something about that that gave me solace. Yes, there are so many great spectacle moments when you're fighting a monster that's 100 times your size, but they are complemented with these nice peaceful moments where I'll just sit down, maybe I'll mix potions or rearrange what I'm carrying, but maybe I'll just sit here for a while. Yeah, I'm going to continue to trek through this game, conquering huge bosses, but it's the moments like these that makes those moments feel special. Although the graphics aren't quite as pretty as some other big name studios like Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica, this game has so many absolutely stunning places to see that it would be a shame to not stop and just admire it for a little while. You're probably wondering, okay, but what about that old guy from earlier and what does this all have to do about suffering? Chill, I'll get there, God. Okay, so I was sitting there wondering what exactly is this phenomenon that I'm thinking about? Me being a former university English student, I thought to myself, I bet some old European bastard could explain exactly what makes this game so appealing to me. Arthur Schopenhauer, born in Poland in 1788. Schopenhauer's philosophy centers around the concept of the will to live, which involves a constant striving and suffering inherent in existence. However, he also acknowledges the possibility of finding moments of tranquility and contentment through pursuits such as aesthetic appreciation or contemplation. If that doesn't sound exactly like Elden Ring to me, I don't know what does. So, Arthur Schopenhauer. He was one depressing son of a bitch. People weren't a big fan of him back in the day, and I can see why. Happiness is a lie, life is suffering. I'm sure he was great at parties. He did have one hard-ass line though. Directly after copulation, the devil's laughter is heard. Bro was out here talking about post-nut clarity in the early 1800s. Schopenhauer said a lot of things, a lot of pretty pessimistic things. But when you really get down to the root of what he's saying, it's not as depressing as it seems. Yes, he's all about happiness is a lie, but at least from what I understood, university dropout, his message kind of boils down to don't equate wealth and fame and stuff like that with being happy. Schopenhauer thought that humans are in a constant cycle of striving to get something, suffering to get it, then being unsatisfied when they finally get it. He do be speaking some truth. Everyone in the world has got these things they want that they think will improve their life. Maybe it's wealth, maybe it's to be fit or to get a certain job, and we tell ourselves, when I get this, I'm going to be so much happier. But more often than not, if we ever do succeed to get that thing we want so badly, it's usually just replaced with a new desire we have to work for all over again. We don't actually enjoy doing the things we think we enjoy. We just do them because they will bring us closer to our goal, which will be unsatisfying. Not many people can just be satisfied with what they have. So, Elden Ring. Do we really like Elden Ring? Or does our brain just want us to think that so we have another goal to chase by beating the next thing? Who's really to say? He did say there are a few ways to mitigate this suffering, the first of which being moments of respite and reflection, moments not in pursuit of any desires, but of appreciation. It is through aesthetic perception that the transcendence of the ego can manifest itself, for with aesthetics, that is, any object, person, or art form, we can evaluate an idea beyond our earthly interpretation of reality. In moments where we just appreciate things like music or nature, those are the moments we can transcend beyond our stupid desires. Wait a minute. Moments of solace and reflection? That sounds a lot like the points of grace to me. They're the moments outside of suffering where we don't have to worry about what came before or what's going to happen in the future. And these things are just littered all over the map. Some of them aren't too special, but some are in the most aesthetically pleasing locations that you could find. They also don't block the whole screen with a menu or anything. They've got one side slightly covered, but for the most part, you're just chilling there and you get to be like your character, appreciating the world around you. Even better, you get control over the camera, so if you want to do what I do and leave it on an aesthetically pleasing site, go right ahead and do so. Yo, Schopenhauer was born in the wrong generation. He would have appreciated the fuck out of From Software games. These calm moments of reflection aren't the only ways to alleviate suffering. Schopenhauer also talks about Schopenhauer believed in a community of suffering, that while each of us are suffering daily, when we share our suffering with each other and help each other out, that's when we build strong connections in alleviating the suffering. Much like how a traumatic event can bring people closer together, that's how he thinks we can build the strongest bonds, and not be happy, because remember, happiness is a lie, but where we can suffer less, which is what our mind has tricked us into thinking is happiness, according to Schopenhauer. Here's what he had to say. It makes us see other men in a true light and reminds us of what are the most necessary of all things. Tolerance, patience, forbearance, and charity, which each of us needs and which each of us therefore owes. Mutual support amongst people to connect on a deeper level. The online aspect of Elden Ring is this to a T. Firstly, there are bloodstains and the messages left behind from other players. The bloodstains show where a previous person has died, and if you interact with it, it will show exactly how they died. It's usually just some idiot accidentally falling off a cliff, but sometimes it'll actually help a lot because it might show how they got ambushed and you can prepare for that. I believe these work sort of randomly and people don't have any control over what bloodstains they see. Even though players aren't specifically choosing to leave their bloodstains there, they're still offhandedly aiding other players through showing how they suffered in their game. The messages left behind are much more direct, and I can honestly say they've helped me out so many times. Players can leave behind these little messages. There are some templates, so whatever you say can't be too complex. I find most of the messages are little tips like a secret entrance or a tough group of enemies up ahead. They can be super useful. People are using their knowledge they've gotten through suffering to help you suffer less. You'll get the odd ones that'll fuck with you, but that's the risk you take by following some random person's advice. Sometimes the messages don't have anything to do with tips. They could just be words of encouragement or congratulations, or my favorite, pointing out the game's beauty. There were plenty of times where I'd be in gamer mode and read a message that was like, didn't realize beautiful view, or some shit like that. I would then stop and take in the beauty, when otherwise I would have never noticed and just kept on trucking. You can also just straight up summon people into your game directly, another form of shared suffering. Even raiding and battling other players, you're honing your skills to become a better player. You may know about the Elden Ring player Let Me Solo Her. His story highlights Schopenhauer's community of suffering. In his first playthrough, he was really struggling to beat the boss Millennia. He struggled so much against her, in fact, that when he beat her, he decided to master the fight so he could beat Millennia no problem. Then he would wait to be summoned into other people's games and beat Millennia for them. Such a wholesome story of one person suffering to make others suffer less. So while a lot of people think they're playing Elden Ring for the boss fights, they might not even realize they're playing so they can suffer less when they play. Does that make sense? Maybe? I don't think his theories align perfectly with Elden Ring, but they do explain what makes the game so appealing to me specifically, and probably some others as well. So next time you're playing Elden Ring, and you see another player, don't just wave or say hi. You tip your cap, and you say, fellow sufferer,